Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
We also talk about gratitude, so I thought we could go around and say our name and just one thing that we're grateful for this morning. And I'll start with three healthy children. Oh, my name's Bob.
Yeah, my name is Bill, and I'm grateful to be back here speaking again.
Patrick, I'm grateful for you.
George, I'm grateful for my practice.
I'm Edmund. I'm grateful for an awareness of choice.
I'm Greg. I'm grateful to be here.
I'm Bob. I'm grateful for my friends and family.
Jack, I'm grateful for GPA.
My name's Arthur. I'm grateful to be here.
Marty.
I'm grateful for everything.
I'm Carl, and I'm grateful that my legs are not hurting me, and I'm grateful for the last few days I've spent with my partner that have been really nice.
I'm Michael. I'm grateful to be staying here in the city at my friend's really warm, beautiful flat.
I'm Todd, and I'm grateful for this beautiful day.
My name is Tom, and I'm grateful for the choices I have today.
I'm Kijun. I'm grateful for what I have.
I'm Cass. I'm grateful for central heating.
I'm Michael. I'm grateful for my friends.
I'm Une, and I'm grateful my partner understands. I'm grateful that there's the Tantra.
I'm Randy, and I'm grateful for the quality of life this morning.
I'm Clint, and I'm grateful that there are still a few liberal enclaves like San Francisco that we can retreat to in these dark times.
I'm Bubbles, and I'm grateful for my life's journey. My life's journey, this journey. I'm David, and I'm grateful for small struggles.
I'm Jay, and I'm grateful for the animation and the freedom that I have to be what I with my
David, I'm grateful for sun.
I'm Lee, and I'm grateful for my new friend, relatively new friend Clark, whom I met here, and I'm grateful for the moderate challenges of my life, which press me to develop.
I'm David, and I'm grateful to be able to breathe.
I'm Peter, grateful for vacation.
My name is Jim. I'm grateful for having seen a terrific play last night called Speaking with Angels.
I'm Aaron. I'm grateful for my partner.
I'm Rick. I'm grateful to be here now.
I'm Steve, and I'm grateful that this weekend I saw my first Bollywood movie, and never had I have so much fun with a movie. They're amazing.
I'm Lucas. I'm grateful for having moved to San Francisco and found this group of guys.
So our speaker today is Bill Weber, the producer. He made a film on the Coquettes and also won Voices from Iraq that's on HBO now. And he studied at Spirit Rock in their program, which is the Theravada tradition.
Thanks, Bob. Good morning, everybody. Boy, I feel like the talk has almost even just been given, just by hearing how what everybody had to say about gratefulness. And so my talk today is on gratitude, and it's a sweet excursion for me to go into gratitude because it's one of my favorite, states, and it came up a lot already this morning. First, in just coming here and seeing so many people that I've known for a long time, and on all these different venues from many different parts of my life, and I felt a lot of gratitude for that. And then sitting here, just starting to sit here, I was just overcome with gratitude. And then to hear everybody speak about what they're grateful for this morning, it just filled up again. And the feeling and the taste of gratitude is really nice sometimes. It just sort of fills the body. It's very sweet. It's very warm. It can even bring tears to the eyes, I find sometimes. It's such a great state to be in. When Clint asked me to speak, and since it was so close to the election, I was thinking about talking about right view. Because it's sort of one way to maybe deal with what happened a couple of weeks ago. And right view is a great thing to talk about. It's sort of the ground, the cement of the Eightfold Path. But then it just sort of dawned on me, no, I really want to talk about gratitude. And partially it's because Thanksgiving's coming up in about 10 days. And so gratitude seemed to fit. And also, just in being in the fall, I find fall is a great time to consider gratitude. Everything's sort of going a little bit dormant. We sort of become inside more. It becomes a bit, it's a more introspective time, I find. And I think that's one reason we have Thanksgiving then. It's the harvest. And gratitude is one thing we can harvest from our spiritual practice. So, gratitude. Yesterday I was having a really dark day. I wasn't feeling good physically, and I got an emotional funk, and everything was just a pain in the ass, and everything that would come up in my life I was having an aversion to. You get in those states sometimes, at least I do, where everything bugs me. And I'm thinking, damn, I'm giving a talk on gratitude tomorrow. I don't feel it. But I want to talk more about that later. How do we find gratitude in those times? And a few people even mentioned that this morning, finding gratitude for the struggles we have sometimes. That's a rich place to look and to work. Anyway, my gratitude's back, and so I'm glad I can talk maybe a little bit more freely about it. When I was growing up, we had dinner together. My family usually had dinner together. And my parents sort of enforced this rule where we would say grace at the beginning of each meal. And I never liked it. And the grace was always, God is great, God is good, let us thank Him for our food. Amen. And it didn't ring true for me. It never meant anything to me. I don't ever remember being thankful for my food, even though we had to say that in front of every meal. So, in the spiritual tradition I grew up in, the Episcopalian tradition, and I'm sure there are people that feel a lot of gratitude around that, but I never experienced it much in that tradition, and I certainly didn't in that saying of grace. But in the 12 years that I've now been practicing in the Buddhist tradition, I've noticed so much more gratitude in my life. And I think they're very intertwined. I don't know if they're exclusive. I mean, I don't know if it's just exclusively because of that, but I think it's very intertwined. I want to give an example before I get into more the Buddhist understanding of gratitude of a period about 5 years ago in my life when I noticed I was just overcome with gratitude. I was going off to Burning Man, and I think most of you know what Burning Man is. It's sort of a big pagan, hippie, punk art gathering out in the Nevada desert that happens on Labor Day. And it had been a summer of some fairly big struggle. In the middle of the summer, my partner was diagnosed as being HIV positive, and that brought up a pretty fair amount of grief for both of us. And then he was going off to college to go to graduate school to get a master's in urban planning. And so he was leaving the house. He was moving out of the house. And he was leaving while I was going to Burning Man. And right before all of this happened, he started taking some HIV medication that he had a really bad reaction to. So he was quite sick from these new meds. And I was hurting. I was really hurting. And I went to Burning Man like this, and I was hurting. And one night at Burning Man, the night of the burn, sort of the big hoopla night, I went off by myself, and I was just sort of off in the shadows, dancing with myself, dancing with my ego, dancing with my pain and my life. And at Burning Man, there were many big art installations, huge art installations, that are gifts by people that go to Burning Man to the community out there. And that night, so many of these installations just spoke to me in a way that they spoke to me of this freedom and this gift and just the scope that was incredibly healing for me. I went through a night of deep healing. And I woke up the next morning and I was drenched in gratitude for these people that had built these huge things that they brought out to the desert just to share with other people. And I really felt like these things had healed me in a lot of ways. And all I wanted to do that next morning was just go out and say thanks. So I get on my bicycle and I drive around the playa. It's just a big plot of land. Excuse me. And I went out just to say thanks. And my thanks was very simple, and it came. It wasn't something I had any premeditation about. But I drove to all these installations, and many of these people were out having breakfast or just taking down their site or whatever. And I just went up and I looked them in the eye and I bowed to them. And it was just my way of saying thanks. And it seemed like they all instinctively understood that I was out there just to say thank you. And it was one of those experiences I think I'll remember for the rest of my life. And it was that the feeling of gratitude was just pouring through my body. And it was this warmth and this love, this deep appreciation that quite literally had me in tears. So gratitude, I love gratitude. So what do we have to be grateful for? There are many things that were mentioned here this morning. And I imagine most of us could relate to most what everybody said, to all the host of things we have to be grateful for. In our practice, we come here, we sit in meditation, we sit in silence, and we try to align ourselves to the present moment. We try to be here. We try to be present for whatever is happening. In that act, gratefulness arises. In that intimate act with being present with whatever is here, I believe that gratefulness can arise. And it arises in one way by we realize that it's all a gift. This is all a gift. We sit here and we pay attention to our breath. It's not our breath. It's a gift. We notice emotions that arise. I might be sitting here with gratitude. It's a gift. I'm sitting here in this body with, all of the myriad of feelings and sensations and sights and smells and sounds. It's all gifts. It's all gifts. None of it to really be taken for granted. But part of what our practice does, it shakes us out of that state of taking our life for granted, of not being here for what is actually given to us in any particular moment. So when we are present, when we are awake and aware, I think gratitude arises. We realize that it is all a gift. Joanna Macy, one of my favorite teachers, this radical 76-year-old woman in the East Bay, wrote, "We have received an inestimable gift to be alive in this beautiful self-organizing universe, to participate in the dance of life with senses to perceive it, lungs that breathe it, organs that draw nourishment from it, is a wonder beyond words. And it is, moreover, an extraordinary privilege to be accorded a human life with a self-reflective consciousness, which brings awareness of our own actions and the ability to make choices. An extraordinary privilege to be accorded a human life." My partner and I were riding our bikes over today, and we passed this secondhand store on Mission Street, or Valencia Street, and they have in the window this, it's one of those training mannequins that they use to show the human body, and it's like a half a mannequin, but the chest is open and you can see the lungs and the heart and the organs inside. And I was thinking, part of my craving came up, and it's like, I want that. But part of what I want to put it in my meditation room, because one thing I love is to be reminded that I'm human, and that I'm organs and flesh and blood. I went to a monastery in the forest in Thailand years ago, and in the meditation hall out in this forest monastery, they had this big glass case, and in the case they have a human skeleton, and then this jar with a dead baby in it. And it's at the front of the meditation hall. I love that because it sort of shocks us out of taking our humanness for granted, because this is a gift to be in this human form. And just to to pay attention to that. In the Tibetan practice, they recommend that at the beginning of each meditation to take 2 reflections. And the first reflection is on the preciousness of a human life. So just to take a moment to reflect on the preciousness of a human life. And the second reflection is on the brevity of the preciousness of this human life. It doesn't last very long. I'm 51 now, and when I look back, so I'm probably more than likely, unless they come up with great new medical advances, I'm more than likely more than halfway through my life. When I look back on it, it's like a dream, Where is it? It's gone. It goes by fast. So it's a great reflection just to say, it brings us back into this moment. This is very precious, this moment, because, we only have so many of them. It's all a gift. A number of people mentioned this group, this Sangha, GBF. Grateful is something they're grateful for. and the Dharma. I'm incredibly grateful to the Dharma. The Dharma has awakened me in ways I could have never imagined, and I am deeply grateful to it. I'm deeply grateful to the teachings, the people that continue to teach, the way the teachings have been handed down. And we, in this area, have so much to be grateful for around that. To be practicing with other homosexuals in the Dharma. This hasn't happened before. This has not happened in the 2,500 years of Buddhist history. This is new. This is a rare gift. Here in the Bay Area, I've been told that there's a bigger variety of Buddhist centers in the Bay Area than in the whole history of Buddhism. So the options we have here to practice the Dharma, to practice the teachings, to practice amongst homosexuals and queers and fags, it's a rare gift. I'm grateful to some of the teachers we've had in the Bay Area. There was a great teacher here that lived, he passed away, I believe, in 1990, and he started the Hartford Street Zen Center. And he was a gay man. He's in Dorsey. He was ordained by Suzuki Roshi, started the Hartford Street Zen Center. Then when a friend of his was dying of AIDS, he started Maitri Hospice in his Zen Center. And it became a 6-7 bed hospice for a number of years, and now they have a 15-bed hospice. And he himself died in that hospice in 1990. So I'm grateful to him and what he's done for the area. I'm very grateful to be living in San Francisco in the Bay Area. Not only for the reasons of the Dharma, but also just because it's such a beautiful place to live. I mean, look at this day out there. It's middle of November, and it's gorgeous out there. And the hills and the bay and we're around ocean and desert and mountains, and it's just like there's so much to be grateful for. And as my good political friend Clint said, it's also one of it's a great liberal bastion. When 85% for Kerry, there's a lot to be grateful for there. But these are the sweet blessings. How can we find all of our lives, all that visits us? If our life is good when things are good, if our practice is good when things are good. And Jack Kornfield wrote a book on forgiveness, loving kindness, and peace. And on the meditation on gratitude and joy, he begins that section on a quote that says, if we cannot be happy in spite of our difficulties, what good is our spiritual practice? Buddhist monks begin each day with a chant of gratitude for the blessings of their life. Native American elders begin each ceremony with grateful prayers to Mother Earth and Father Sky, to the four directions, to the animal, plant, and mineral brothers and sisters who share our earth and support our life. In Tibet, the monks and nuns even offer prayers of gratitude for the suffering they have been given. Grant that I may have enough suffering to awaken in me the deepest possible compassion and wisdom. Grant that I may have enough suffering to awaken in me the deepest possible compassion and wisdom. That's a hell of a chant. That's a hell of something to ask for. May I have enough suffering. I thought about it a lot yesterday when I was in such a funk. I looked for moments of gratefulness in that, and certainly, where are my lessons in this? For me, they aren't always so easy to find, but we're continuing to give opportunities to look at this. In that same vein, this is a Zen poem from a book called Living Buddhism. Assailed by afflictions, we discover Dharma and find the way to liberation. Thank you, evil forces. When sorrows invade the mind, we discover Dharma and find lasting happiness. Thank you, sorrows. Through harm caused by evil spirits, we discover Dharma and find fearlessness. Thank you, ghosts and demons. Through people's hate, we discover Dharma and find benefits and happiness. Thank you, those that hate us. Through cruel adversity, we discover Dharma and find the unchanging way. Thank you, adversity. Through being impelled by others, we discover Dharma and find the essential meaning. Thank you, all who drive us on. Through people's hate, we discover Dharma and find benefits and happiness. Yeah, we live in challenging times. There's a lot going on right now. Joanna Macy, the woman I read from earlier, talks about this being one of the great periods of the turning of the wheel again. A really important time in history when things are dramatically changing. It's very challenging. Can we find benefits and happiness in the midst of that? I know in my own practice, one of the big benefits of a sitting practice, of a meditation practice for me, is learning to sit with balance, with equanimity, with openness, with acceptance, with allowance, with whatever arises. My sitting practice really started to change when I noticed that, it's really very simple. You sit with it all. You sit with whatever arises, with whatever is there. I noticed it even as I sat here again this morning. I'm sitting and I'm a little nervous, so my heart's racing a bit from having to talk today, and there's a little bit of tension in my body, and it's like there's a little bit of adversity to that. It's like, well, no, I'd rather have my body be free and open. I'd rather have my breath be steady. Just a taste of that even. But if I open to what is, if I open to what is truly there, if I can find that balance and acceptance and equanimity for that, it's fine. Okay, there's a little bit of tension. There's a little bit of faster heart. It's not that big a deal. So that's what we can learn in our sitting practice. Can we apply that, in the larger sense, in the outside part of it? To have gratitude and acceptance for whatever's out there. For the hate that might be shown to us as gay people. What does that teach us? What's our reaction? Can we find that kind of balance and equanimity and acceptance and awareness and presence for that too? It's like the Dalai Lama when he talks about the Chinese that have totally decimated his culture. He calls them the friend or enemy. But he does so from a place that truly sees them as his friend. Can we adopt that some with our adversaries? It's a big challenge for me. I know that. But I know that possibility's out there. I've had a taste of it sometimes. I'm moving in that direction. I find encouragement there. And I find that it really sort of has to be that way. Because what I keep coming to, it's not them and us. It's us. I think all of us here have lived through the horror of and the ugliness of what the AIDS epidemic brought on. I was living in New York in the 80s, and New York, like San Francisco, was just ugly. It was really ugly. And out of this really gruesome darkness came so many beautiful things. Out here in the Bay Area, you had all these beautiful help organizations like Shanti and the AIDS Foundation, and places like Project Open Hand, which still serves meals to people all over the city. You had hospices arise. There was a coming together of the community around the issues of the heart, like I'd never seen before. All of a sudden, being gay just wasn't just quite the sexual realm it was. It became more of a realm of the heart, out of this real deep ugliness. To me, that shows part of this possibility of using adversity to bring great gifts. The question comes up too, is like, what do we really, how much do we need to really develop this gratitude? What do we need to be grateful for? Can we be grateful for the really small gifts that we're given all the time? In our practice as we sit, I think there's a possibility to realize that each breath is a gift. Something as small as a breath. This nourishment we get from the outside that we bring in, that comes inside of us and gives nourishment to our whole body. And then, and then it goes out. And then it just comes in again. And it happens again and again and again. It's this gift. And it's very small. But it's, it keeps us alive. It's huge. There's what do we need? What do we require to be happy, to be connected, to be grateful? Bruein, a Zen monk from the 1700s in Japan, was a great poet and a very simple monk that lived like most Buddhist monks with nearly nothing. It's one thing I love about meeting some monks in my life is that I realized that you need so little to be happy, because literally the happiest people I have ever met have been a number of monks that own nothing. That own absolutely nothing, and they just sometimes beam happiness. There's one up in upstate California named Ajahn Amaro. Happiest guy I've ever met. Anyway, back to Bruein, this story. Once a thief entered his house but found nothing of value. Out of frustration, the thief took his old and torn sleeping quilt and his meditation cushion. When Bruein returned to the hut and discovered what had happened, he wrote this haiku. The thief left it behind, the moon at the window. It's so simple. It speaks of such gratitude. It speaks of such gratitude for the really simple things. I've been fortunate in my life to have the time and the opportunity to go on meditation retreats, which is another rare gift. And sometimes when my mind gets really quiet, I'm just filled with gratefulness. And I'll go outside and there'll be a breeze on my cheek, and I just get overwhelmed at how beautiful and sweet that is. I was planning on giving this talk on gratitude here earlier in the week, and I got a call on Wednesday that there's a group in town called Urban Dharma that was started by Noah Levine, and who was of the Dharma punk world, his world that he started, that's growing like mad across the country right now. And so I said, sure, I'll give my talk on gratitude on Friday night at this group, and I'll sort of try it out on them to see how it works. And I said I could just substitute punk for fag and give the same talk. But at the end of the talk, a bunch of people came up and said thank you, and it felt really good to receive gratitude, and all I felt was gratitude for being able to speak about this, for being able to remind myself of gratitude, and I was just washing in gratitude. So that's my Thanksgiving talk. I think I'll end there. Just there's one other thing I wanted to do. I've gotten a couple of calls from some friends that said they're actually listening to these talks on the internet. Friends of mine that live out of town. So I just want to say hi to everybody on the internet. I hope we have some time for questions and comments and yeah.
I like what you said about, especially after the election, the media constantly talks about all the issues that divide us. The right wing versus left wing, Christian versus pagan, whatever. And I think that's the challenge, is to realize that it isn't as divided as I think the media makes it out to be.
Right. And I think the question is, how divided are we? As soon as we start, when are we digging those trenches in between us? And that's a challenge. I mean, that's a challenge for me, I find. But as soon as we start saying them, we are creating that divide. Yeah. So thanks for bringing that up. I also want one more thing. I want to publicly acknowledge my gratitude for my partner too, who I've had a difficult time living with myself for a long time, and he chooses to live with me. So it's like, so I have deep gratitude for that. So thank you.
Yeah, there's a risk that having gratitude for these negative events it's almost insane, or could be Pollyannish.
Right.
Except for the fact that it's the central teaching of the Buddha.
Right.
That when dukkhas arise, that's when your reactivity is revealed.
Right.
And the reactivity, the containing and the understanding and the learning about your own reactivity is what the whole process is about.
Yep.
If it weren't for the dukkhas, you would never see them. You live in this God realm,
yep,
where you just thought everything was great because you're never hungry, you're never being entertained,
Right.
Those are the realms of the polarity too, where they aren't experiencing that enough to make the right choices, to understand their own reactivity.
Right.
They're able to buy their way out or power their way. And these small, creatures are stuck, luckily. Able to see your own reactivity.
Yeah. I sometimes wonder how much dukkha they live with, though, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was just a little cheap shot.
Yeah. Go for it. But yeah, if we cannot be happy in spite of our difficulties, what good is our spiritual practice? Yeah, so it's just like, to find... It's been the richest point and the place where I make the most progress in my own sitting practice is where I had the most pain and difficulty, and the most dukkha, the most suffering. So yeah, that's just the small, that's the internal. But now when we take it external, does that apply out there too? And can we apply that out there too? It's a good thing to consider and reflect on.
I wanted to echo David's question maybe further, just a little bit. Maybe it wasn't a question. I'll turn it into one. I'll try. I think it's very interesting the way you've set up gratitude, and not only for the things that we normally would be grateful for, but for the most difficult, the most challenging, and in fact, that's a central theme. And in fact, finding gratitude there is perverse, as David worried.
Yeah.
And it's awfully happy. I'm accustomed to this perversion. I've lived with it for a long time. I recognize it immediately. Our sexuality is perverse to a lot of people.
Right.
And it suddenly, this as a theme, because of the way you put your talk together, sounds very powerful. Not only do we have something to talk about perversion and sexuality and spirituality, but gratitude and perversion. And it seems like it's a core truth to transform our fears and other things into gratitude or into opportunity, into something positive. This is really a profound thing that queer Buddhists path.
Right. Yeah, we probably push a lot of buttons. Queer Buddhist. You know, it's my parents. It almost seems like my parents had a harder time with me being a Buddhist than with me being gay, because we're like this weird cult that rarely gets talked about in this country. When they talk about the religions of the country, you know, we're rarely mentioned. When they have interfaith ceremonies at the White House, I don't remember monks being there. You know, so I'm curious though about the perversion aspect of it. I mean, that's adopting their view, right?
Yeah. Transform it.
Right.
Because it's energy that I'm not, it doesn't surprise me or startle me. I do the same thing when I see things that are, you know, oh my God, look at them, he's eating another hamburger. It is so perverse.
Hear, hear.
And I recognize that most of their life is based on this kind of agribusiness torture of animals. Or, you know, most of the peace in this country, the security they fight for, is based on, you know, making anything but peace all over the world.
Right.
From Haiti to, you know, Africa.
Right.
And their sense of security and their stability and their, you know, that's what I find to be perverse, and suddenly I recognize it, and then we get a nice little cycle.
Yeah.
How I actually am a part of.
Yeah.
Just when I don't like, just when I'm most afraid.
Yeah.
And it's great, and it's a lovely chance to be grateful to that perversion.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Years ago, I heard David Spangler, who's sort of a New Age visionary, speak, and someone asked him about the difference between karma and grace. And he said that karma is looking through a hole in the fence at your life, and grace is having no fence. Just getting it all. And I don't find that just an accidental use of the same word that when people say, you know, give thanks before a meal, it's called saying grace.
Right.
It's sort of that moment of remembering everything.
Right.
And we started out with that in our...
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. Because and even thinking about this talk, I thought a lot about grace. How does grace play into this? And yeah, there is a lot of interweaving of that. It appears to me, and the fact that it's all a gift, so it's all grace. It's all grace. Yeah.
It helps me to remember that the opposite of gratitude is resentment, and I know where that leads.
Yeah.
Bitter table for one.
It leads to where? Bitter table for one. Yeah.
And I also lived in New York, and there were people on the subways in New York who were arguing at the subway pole. They're just arguing the rest of their lives, and I easily could see myself becoming that old man.
Yeah.
Gratitude is the other choice, and resentment's very familiar to me, but gratitude is always the other choice. And you look at old people, and that's almost the choice. They're either angry at the world, or they're still open to it. And it's how we create that each day where we're going to end up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, and it does seem like a choice sometimes, doesn't it? And it's certainly something that we can foster and fertilize and nourish in our lives, is that sense of gratitude. And it's like I've said a number of times, it's such a sweet feeling and state that it's a nice place to be.
Yeah, that's what I echo a lot of said here. It's really important for me to reflect on this. I really am with being a gay man in a homophobic culture, and it's interesting. So there was a time in my life where I did not make this statement at all. I think being on the fringe gives you such an opportunity to challenge conventional truths in a way that you don't have to if you're not on the fringe. And I think that there's a lot of craziness and dysfunctional behavior in the gay community, but I also think that there are a lot of people who have have more authentic and a more honest take on what the fuck is going on than people who are just totally enmeshed in the mainstream. And it's a painful road to travel, and it's been very painful for me in the past, a lot less painful now. But there is a lot of richness here that I think a lot of people miss out on. And so I am very grateful. And I was talking to a friend, I was pissed off about the election. He said, well, great, now we're this kind of like fringe culture all over again. And we can have all this, all this dangerous, dark aspect to us that we were losing by being absorbed in the mainstream. That way.
One comment I want to make to that. I was with my main teacher, Eugene Cash, with a group of people a while ago, and and this was after the election. It was actually before the election. We were talking about this, and people were really freaked about the election. And he told this story of Ajahn Chah. Ajahn Chah was this great Thai forest monk who was Jack Kornfield's main teacher. And I bring this up in reference to your comment about you think we're closer to the truth, and I mean, I find myself thinking that all the time, who shouldn't care for the environment more? Who shouldn't care for, the safety of the planet? Who shouldn't care for the people that are disadvantaged? That it seems very right to me. But anyway, outside of Ajahn Chah's monastery one time, there was this Christian missionary woman who was just going out and calling Ajahn Chah the devil and saying this is, they're practicing evil ritual out here in the forest and things like that. And this monk came to Ajahn Chah and said, I'm really concerned about this. It sounds really bad. And he just looked at her. Ajahn Chah looked at this monk and said, well, what if she's right? What's beautiful about that is that we really don't know. And how tightly do we hold on to our views? How, and how much does this really cause us discomfort and add dukkha and suffering to our own lives? Just something to think about. I mean, I love the fact that he said that, It's just...
So maybe we are sick for example.
Well, Clint, I come from what you were saying too. I mean, I like it when gay was more of a secret underworld than a mainstream culture. So, yeah, just something to consider.
Just an idle question, probably with no answer. I wonder if we are built to create suffering, to inspire the seeking of grace and enlightenment, and I think of Fujiyama writing about the end of history, and communism collapsed, and there was no longer the struggle. But fortunately, we've invented the class of civilizations now between Islam and the West, and I wonder if there are no republicans if we would have to invent them. And without death, would there be any spirituality?
Well, the Democrats and Republicans are not picking on the moderate Republicans.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. But it fits in with the idea of gratitude because it means that there is nothing which doesn't belong.
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful. They say part of the blessings of being born in a human life is that it's really possible to start to understand this, that our lives have just the right amount of pleasure and pain. There's just the right amount of suffering. And the fact that there is death, and the fact that we don't live a really long life so that we have to really pay attention to the pain of death, that it's just the right amount of fire to really lead to understanding around this. If our lives were more pain, we wouldn't have the pleasurable time to practice and to study the Dharma. And if our lives were more long and luxurious, we wouldn't have that need, that fire, that drive to go in and look to what's true and to look to what rings for us.
I remember some years ago when I was going back to my high school union in Wisconsin, which of course eventually turned out to be one of the states. And I've been invited to do an invocation class, and a high school class, and of course I chose amongst the things to invoke was my gay self. And I was the only person who had ever identified myself as lesbian or gay in my class to this moment. And of course, my close friends as adults, I didn't come out in high school, so it wasn't that a possibility. But my close friends, of course, knew I was gay, but not everybody in that class knew. And 90% of people came up to me and said how glad they had known me all their lives and how glad they were to have this part of me. But there was a handful of people who came up and said that they thought what I had done was outrageous and inappropriate, and they didn't like it. And what was interesting to me was that my first response to them, when I spoke to them, was to say, thank you very much for telling me exactly, totally, and fully how you feel. I said, that was the choice I made. And what I didn't really understand until they told me how they felt was that part of the choice I made was to invite them to make their choices so that it would be all there. And what it really is for me is a kind of giving up of control, saying, well, there's a right and a wrong here. There's a whole here. But what it means and how it works out and what happens, that's not controllable. That develops and stuff. What was interesting to me was that I did not feel less close to those people who come up to me and said that. It was like they were taking a risk. I mean, they didn't have to come up. They could have kept their feelings, to themselves and sort of said, But one of the things was that they had a face that they had known all their lives that now bore that
scarlet
because I came from such a homogeneous community that without my doing, who was to do it? Who was to do that? Not you, who?
Yeah.
Thank you. What you said reminded me of the one statement I remember from Theodore Reich, who's a radical psychiatrist and wrote Masochism and Sex and Society, which has always stuck with me. That is that the absence of love is not hate, but indifference.
I think we need to wrap it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's have announcements.
This woman, Chris Bailey, and I will be teaching another beginning meditation class in January. It's going to start January 13th at the Unitarian Church at Franklin and Gary. It'll be on Thursday night, and it's 5 consecutive Thursday nights. A number of people from here have been in a previous class, and I love having people from GBF in the group. So if you're interested, I'll make sure I get an email out to the listserv in the group, and I'll try to get flyers for you next Sunday for it. So just to put that on your calendar, or to tell people you think they might be interested in it.
One more announcement. It's a pretty good turnout today, so let me pitch for one volunteer to be a host. Steve right now is out there putting out goodies. He's the host for today. And once every 2 months, we need somebody if they want to increase their involvement just a tiny bit more in GBF. Talk to me afterwards about being a host.
So, should we stand in a circle and hold hands and go do the offering?
Coming back into the body and feeling the sense of community, feeling the sense of Sangha that's here in the room, feeling the connection that we all have. May the merit and the goodness of our practice, the sincerity of our practice, may it be a benefit for all beings. May we share it with all we encounter as we leave today. May we share it with each other. May all beings be happy. May all beings know peace. May all beings be filled with gratitude. May all beings be free.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.